There we go. Me neither. This is, however, an incredibly popular week to be out of town. What? That's okay. We'll serve it for breakfast. Uh-huh. Let's see.
I'm still going to go with a dozen bagels.
Yes. Yeah, I would say a dozen. Yeah, I say so. Okie dokie. Dismiss. Let's go to here. It's good to be back. Except hello? Okay. Prescription? It's very hard to read the small. That's why I put the chat very big. There. Where's this type message here? That's how big it'll appear on the chat. Anyway, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to shout out to see Shabbat Shalom for those who are here with us on YouTube, for those who are here with us on Zoom, in the sanctuary, but especially for those of us who are here on YouTube or on Zoom. Take a second to introduce yourself in the chat. Your name, where you're joining us from this evening, and together we will build community as we welcome in Shabbat. So, let's start as we light the Shabbat candles. As we welcome in Shabbat together, we take a deep breath. We let it out. And let's take another one, a cleansing breath at the end of a long week. Let it out. But on Friday nights, as we light the candles, we don't just let out, we also bring in. We let out a cleansing breath, breathing out the week that was, but we also take a moment to let people in from the waiting room as we build community. Aha. We don't just breathe out that which we have been carrying from the week that was, we also bring in the light of Shabbat, the light of the promise that a new week brings, the light that perhaps the faces smiling at you bring, whether physically in the same space as you or whether across space. And so we bring in the light together one time, two times, three times, as we say the bracha, the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Yada-da-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, 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 yada-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, 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 yada-nai, nai, nai, yada-nai, yada-da-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, 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 yada-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, nai, yada-da-nai, nai, 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 nai. Page 7, Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Meshoch Avdecha El Retzonecha Yarut Avdecha Kemo Ayal Ishtachaveh El Mul Hadarecha Teravlo Yedidutecha Mino Fetzuf Vechol Tamayai Yada-da-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai, 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 yada-da. That's probably better. Yada-da-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai, yada-da-nai-nai-nai-nai-nai. The last verse. Higalena ufros chavivi alai et sukat shelomecha ta'ir eretz lichvodecha nagila v'nismecha vach Maher ahuv kiva moed v'choneni ki me'olam Nai-nai-nai, yada-nai-nai-nai, yada-nai-nai-nai-nai, yada-nai-nai-nai, 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 yada-nai-nai-nai-nai, yada-nai-nai-nai, 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 yada-nai-nai-nai. Shabbat Shalom. So, we are going to turn to page 25. So we turn to Psalm 96. Shiru Ladonai Shir Hadash. Sing a new song. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. This Shabbat is like a Shabbat of transition in our region. Right? It's the Shabbat where many people are preparing to go back to school, either as teachers or as students. As grandparents, this has been a week, the week between camp ending and school starting, where childcare doesn't exist for many. And so for grandparents, this has been your biggest week on for many who have local grandchildren. Jules and Ruth, I don't know if you are among them. I think your camera keeps going on and off. Were you guys on as grandparents this week?
Off and on. And I turned the camera off because, wait a minute, I just turned it on again.
Yeah.
You
All
did.
right, so on the TV, we have YouTube, and you're teeny tiny on the TV.
That's
But
true.
if I turn off our camera and you're the only one, then you're bigger on the TV.
That's
So
true.
keep the camera
So
off.
wait, and I think because there's only two on, I can't spotlight myself. But anyway.
Okay, so I'm going to stop video.
Yeah, but
We're
then
here.
I
Stop
can't
video.
see.
We're here, but yeah, we want you to be bigger on this
Ah, that makes sense.
And the recording.
That too. But when we so I'll know that you're there.
Yes.
And yeah, so this has been a week of new songs. Of songs of vacation time, songs of spending time with loved ones, songs of finding that last thing that we do this summer before workplaces ramp up and schools ramp up and people come back from being down the shore and we start to do things in real time again, right? This has been either the last week of our old songs or a week of new and novel songs. So I wanted to offer as a kavanah this week for Psalm 96, Shiru Ladonai Shir Hadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. That perhaps Kol Haaretz in this last week or second to last week of the summer, may we look back on it and think of a new song that we sang. A new song of a back-to-school photo being sent to you from a grandchild far away. A new song of a memory made at the beach. A new song that you sang, at least I can say, as someone trying to work full-time and parent full-time at the same time. That's a new song. And in these new songs, we notice the harmony between each of our new songs, creating a beautiful chorus that we carry in with us on this Shabbat. Shiru l'Adonai, Shir Hadash, Shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Hu Shemo, Basaru miyom le'yom Yeshuato, Shiru l'Adonai, Shir Hadash, Shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Hu Shemo, Basaru miyom le'yom Yeshuato, Basaru miyom le'yom Yeshuato. I want to wish a Shabbat Shalom to Harriet, a Shabbat Shalom to you, Rich, and to Jules, and to Ruth, and perhaps to little Taco on the sofa. And if I
Always
have not said
between
Shabbat
us.
Shalom to you, do take a second to introduce yourself or announce yourself in the chat so that we know that you're here with us tonight and as you come in, so we build community together. And if you're in a position where you can unmute in a discussion, you'll do that. If you're in a position where you can chat in a discussion, you'll do that. Because we each will shine our own light that shines out from our own righteousness, right? Or zarua la tzadik, light is sown for the righteous, uliyishrei lev simcha, and happiness for those who are steadfast of heart. Page 31. Or zarua la tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha, simcha, yadai. Or zarua la tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha, simcha, yadai. Ya hey la la, hey la la, ya la la, ya hey la la, hey la la. Ya hey la la, hey la la, ya la la. Hey la la, hey la la, ya hey hi. Or zarua la tzadik, ulei yishrei lev simcha, simcha, simcha. Or zarua la tzadik, ulei yishrei lev simcha, simcha. Or zarua la tzadik, ulei yishrei lev simcha, simcha. Ya la la, ya hey la la, hey la la, ya la la. Hi la la, hey la la. Hi la la, hey la la, ya la la. Hi la la, hey la la, ya la. Or zarua la tzadik, ulei yishrei lev simcha, simcha, simcha. Or zarua la tzadik, ulei yishrei lev simcha, simcha. Or zarua la tzadik, ulei yishrei lev simcha, simcha. Ya la la. We rise in body or in spirit on page 37 for Psalm 29. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai Pnei Elim, Havu l'Adonai, Kavod v'ozai, Havu l'Adonai kevod shemo, Shachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod irim. Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai b'koach. Kol Adonai behadar. Kol Adonai shover harazim, vayishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, vayarkidem kimo hegel Levanon, vesirion kemo ממאי כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש כל אדוני יחיל מדבר יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש כל אדוני יכול לעלות ויחשוף יערות ובהיכלו כולו אומר כבוד אדוני למה בו ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום Page 41 Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela Woo lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmianu el ha'meyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem tiferet v'litchi la 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 Lecha dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Woo! Lecha dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lehu v'nelcha Ki mekor ha'beracha Meirosh mikadem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat echila la 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 Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Woo! Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Hitoreri Kiva orech uri shir daberi Kevod Adonai alayich nigla la 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 Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Woo! Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Yaminu small tifrotzi V'et Adonai ta'ariti Al yadi ish ben partzi V'nismecha v'nagi la 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 Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Woo! Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela We rise in spirit or in body and face the entrance as we greet the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam besimcha uvetzochola Toch emunei am segula Boi chala La 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 Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Woo! Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Shabbat Shalom. So a few little words of Torah. So, Achad Ha'am, the early Zionist philosopher and essayist whose sort of secular Zionism was the yin to Theodore Herzl's yang, right? Just interesting that this quote is coming from a secular Zionist, an early secular Zionist, said that as much as Shabbat has kept the Jewish, or sorry, I just messed up his quote, that as much as the Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. I'll say that again. As much as the Jews have kept Shabbat, or some translations say more than the Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. What does this mean? There is something about caring for ourselves that keeps us going, perhaps. But I think there's something more than that. This week in Parshat Re'eh, which is sort of in the middle of the book of Deuteronomy, we're about like 11 to 16 chapters in to the book of Deuteronomy, so the early middle piece, we are given a number of different restrictions. But each and every one of those restrictions comes back to the same theme, that we need to be self-disciplined about what we are doing. We need to, when we enter into a new place and we grow our crops and we set aside the tithe of the new grain, we have to be careful not to, over the course of the harvest season, eat from that which has been set aside for the tithe of the new grain, for that tithe is sacred. And we cannot partake of it alone. We have to wait until we bring it to the Levite and to their family and eat it together. We have to be careful that when we enter into a new town, that we don't ask about the foreign gods, because our God is Adonai, lest our eyes go astray. We have to be careful that when we should get hungry and say, I want to eat meat, right? Because according to Jewish tradition, like, the optimal thing is that we should all apparently not eat meat, but God acquiesces and knows that human beings often crave animal protein. And so, right, it's interesting. It says, when your body should tell you that you have a craving and it says, I want meat, you don't just slaughter the meat and eat it. You make sure to do it in a sacred way. And even so, even though it's not an animal sacrifice, prepare the meat in such a way that you are draining out the life force and not eating the blood with the meat, right? It's all about self-discipline and being cautious and careful. I want to share one special place about being cautious and careful that I think stands out, and perhaps stands out in its difference. Because it's not just about being cautious and careful for oneself, but it's about being cautious and careful in the context of community. So we're going to go to chapter 15 of the book of Deuteronomy, and it's chapter 15, verse 4. I'm sharing it here on the screen, so hopefully everyone can see it. And it says, there shall be no needy among you, since Adonai your God will bless you in the land that Adonai your God is giving you as a hereditary portion. If only you heed your God Adonai and take care to keep all these instructions that I enjoin upon you this day. For Adonai your God will bless you, as promised, and will extend loans to many nations, but require none. For your God Adonai will bless you, as promised. You will extend loans to many nations, but require none yourself. For you will dominate many nations, but they will not dominate you. So we start out with this idea that there will be no needy, and in fact, you as a community will not be needy, because God will care for you. But then it goes on. If, however, there is a needy person among you, one of your kin, in any of your settlements in the land that Adonai your God is giving you, do not harden your heart and shut your hand against your needy kin. Rather, you must open your hand and lend whatever is sufficient to meet the need. Beware, lest you harbor the base thought that the seventh year is coming, right? We're talking about the seventh year, the Shemitah year, where you might not have enough, and give nothing to your needy kin who will cry out to Adonai against you and incur guilt. Give readily and have no regrets, for in return Adonai your God will bless you in all your efforts and in all your undertakings. And then again, for there will never cease to be needy ones in your land, which is why I command you to open your hand to the poor and the needy in your land. Okay. So, we start in verse 4 with a big statement. There it is. There shall be no needy among you. And we end in verse 11. Is it 11? Yes. For there will never cease to be needy ones in your land. Okay. What's going on here? And what does this have to do with being careful and being cautious? And what does this have to do with this quote from Echad Ha'am that I started with, that as much as the Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people? So I want to open this up for reflection before I give my thoughts on this. So, what do we think? And so, Harriet, I want to invite you and anyone else who's on YouTube to share in the chat reflections and thoughts. We also have Dan Schwartz here. Oh, nice. Dan Schwartz says, through hardship and questioning of how God can allow bad things to happen to good people, we are able, through Shabbat, to try to remain connected with God. Nice. Beautiful. Other thoughts? Jules, Ruth, Rich, anyone else who's here tonight? Rich, it sounds like you have something to say.
Yes.
You're getting there, yes?
The idea of welcoming God in, as you were saying when you were lighting the candles on Shabbat, is, I think, why we need Shabbat. Because if I stay too filled with self, the fear particularly of not having enough, then ultimately that is really not our state of being. Our state of being is that we do have enough, as long as we can get rid of the fear of not having enough. And doing that, I would need to bring God in and ask God to take the fear away, because he can do that stuff too. So, and that's also where Shabbat and community comes together.
Nice.
Because I think that's another really great way that Shabbat helps us as a people not to be afraid, because we have each other.
Nice. Beautiful. All right. So wait, okay. Here we go. I want, Jules and Ruth, can you unmute and share what you said out loud?
Yeah. I said that the phrase "there will be no needy" is aspirational, much like our, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Whereas, so if we follow what the commandments say, then there will be no needy. But there always will be something to strive for, so there always will be needy among you. And that we have to try to eliminate that.
Nice. Yeah, right, this notion that there will always be needy in your land, but that by entering into this, for lack of a better word, this breach, this covenant, right? Whether it's the covenant of constitutional democracy, or whether it's this covenant of Torah, and all of these laws and instructions that God has imparted upon us on this day, right, as Parshat Re'eh says, by buying into this, even though we know in real life that there will be needy in our land, always, there will always be need, that by buying into this system, this social contract, this divine covenant, whatever, we aspire to fill those gaps and be each other's safety net, right? And to not be stingy, not think only of the self, right? This piece that you brought in, Rich, that to fill that we have enough in our cups to fill one another's cup and trust that our cups will still remain full, right? It's like when you light a candle. When you light a candle, the first candle doesn't have less fire, right? Those two flames end up eventually being equal and in fact sustaining one another, right? Then if that first candle gets blown out, the second candle that wouldn't have had flame had the first one not lit it, can now go right back and light the other, right? There's this idea that if we are disciplined enough to not only fulfill our own need and be, as you said, Rich, be blocked by fear, then in fact there will be no needy. We can reach that aspirational goal. Yeah. Other thoughts? I think Rich, and this time Rich has a microphone.
I have a microphone now. Can you hear me? Whatever. Assume you can. Don't speak into the microphone. It's on. So I think that there's also a difference between meeting the food.
Is his microphone on? Is there a switch
Rich,
to
it's
turn it
possible
on?
your microphone's on.
But it's not. Oh, there. The microphone is on now.
I don't hear anything. We don't
don't?
hear him.
Oh, really? Yeah, this little light of mine.
Maybe it needs another battery.
Maybe it does. Rich, just hold this.
Yeah, just. So yeah, I think that the other thing is that you can be needy of something that's more material like food, but then there's also the neediness of filling with God. And so there's both types of poverty, that we don't have to be poor. And certainly sometimes people who really don't have all that much materially can be quite rich.
Nice. Beautiful. So there's that idea about being, so I like that. So that sort of like complicates this question of what does it mean to be disciplined in one's approach. There's also a faith component to this. Being disciplined in one's belief in. Being disciplined, right, even in moments, right? It's very easy to have faith in God. It's very easy to believe in the power of the force of the universe when things are going well. But when one is in need, or one is in fear that one is afraid that one's needs are not going to be met, it's very easy to not be as disciplined in one's faith. That's interesting. All right, I'm going to go to the YouTube, because in YouTube chat land, there's a lot of reflection here. So I want to share that Dan writes, and I apologize, this might be Dan, this might be Susan. Okay. Dan says, or Susan says, too consumed with self in terms of hoarding our crops for ourselves instead of sharing with those in need, and by sharing with others, remaining connected to God. Right, that when we share with others, we actually connect to the divine. And Harriet responds, I share Dan's perspective and have been obsessed since Tisha B'Av by hardships and connection through Shabbat. So I wanted to put those into this conversation as well. So I want to return Actually, Jules and Ruth, I haven't been on this one. Is there anything else in the chat here? Jules, Ruth, do you have anything else to add as well?
No.
No.
Okay. So I want to return to the text that I shared at the beginning, the "There shall be no needy," which is one of my totally favorite passages in Torah, because I absolutely love the way that it comes together in both its in its apparent dissonance, and how then after a close reading it's actually quite harmonious. I just want to return to it and let us hear these pieces. There shall be no needy among you, since Adonai will bless you in the land that Adonai your God is giving you as a hereditary portion. If only you heed Adonai your God and take care to keep all these instructions that I enjoin upon you on this day. And I'm moving down to verse 7. If, however, there is a needy person among you, do not harden your heart and shut your hand against your needy kin. Rather, you must open your hand and lend whatever is sufficient to meet the need. Give readily and have no regrets when you do, for there will never cease to be needy ones in your land, which is why I command you, open your hand to the poor and the needy kin in your land. Yeah. And so, may we, as we enter into this Shabbat, have the spiritual, the emotional, the communal self-discipline to keep our hands open even in moments when we feel that whatever resource is being asked of us is scarce. Because only by keeping our hands open and acknowledging the need in our world and being scrupulous about, disciplined about fulfilling those needs, and notice that we, in turn, get our needs filled, that there indeed will be no needy in our land, because we have one another, and it will keep us. So, I want to invite us now, as we take this kavanah, this intention, this little piece of Torah with us, to turn to page 59. I don't think we have a minyan. I think we're under a minyan. Actually, you know what? We will sing As We Bless, and then we'll move into page 59. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And our blessing gives us strength and makes our vision clear. And the blessing gives us peace and the courage to dare. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro mariv aravim bechokma poteach sharim uvivuna mishanei yitim, umachalif et hazmanim usader et hakochim v'rashotayim rak yakir tonam. Umavir yom umevi laila umavdil ben yom uven laila Adonai tzvaot shemo elachai v'kayam tamidim loch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Amari Varavim, page 61. Let's read together. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by an unending love. Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. Blessed are you, beloved one, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 65, the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meotecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha Vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kashartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך והיה עם שמוע תשמעו טוהר שלכני בתוך In the spirit of the conversation that we had about the piece from this week's Torah portion, I want to share below the line on page 69, quote adapted from Mordechai Kaplan. God is the assumption that there is enough in the world to meet our needs, but not to meet our greed for power and pleasure. With that we say, Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 79, really 78 below the line actually. Is there someone who wants to volunteer to read? Page 78 below the line. Ruth, do you want to read?
Sure. When our ancestors beheld these truths, they proclaimed, among all the gods we can name, who can compare to the one beyond naming? Among all the quantities we can label, number, mark, and measure, which compares to the mystery at the heart of reality?
So page 79, and Jules and Ruth, in response to your question, I think that the answer is the people who you see, and Dan and Susan are the people who are here currently right now. Page 79.
Yeah.
Micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha b'helim Adonai, micha mocha. Mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, dedar bakodesh nora, tehilot aseh, fele nora, tehilot say vele Malechutecha Rauvanecha Bokei Hayam Lifnei Moshe Ze'eli Anu Ve'ameru Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed Ve'nemar Ki Fad Adonai et Yaakov U'galo mi'ad chazak mimenu Baruch Ata Adonai Gal Yisrael. Page 81. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'amidinu malkeinu l'chaim Ufros aleinu Sukat Shelomecha Ufros aleinu Sukat Shelomecha Ushmor Tzeitenu Oinu L'chaim U'L'Shalom Me'ata Ve'ad Olam Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Baruch Ata Adonai Haporei Sukat Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Amo Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel Ve'al Yerushalayim. We rise in spirit or in body on page 85. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Page 88. I want to invite us to read together the top reading, the top introduction to the Amidah by Sandy Eisenberg Sasso. And so we'll read together. Standing here in Abraham's desert, affirming one God, moving in the old spaces, warmed by our ancestors' embrace, standing here in Sarah's tent, laughing, new life, moving in the old spaces, renewed by our ancestors' hope. Standing here in my place, listening to our voices, yearning, moving in my own spaces, translating the silence. We enter into the silence that is our silent Amidah for the evening. I want to invite you into prayer the way you most feel called this evening, in the language and with the intention that calls you most. As we enter together. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imeru, amen. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I want to say Shabbat Shalom to Carolyn Savitsky, and I want to apologize, a quick apology for not letting you into the waiting room the first time. We were in the middle of the silent Amidah, and when I opened my eyes, I saw that you were in the waiting room, and we tried to let you in, and then you disappeared. But I'm glad that you came back. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see you, and perhaps also Marty this evening. You're still muted, though.
I know. Marty's on a call with his aunt in Florida, so we'll see if we can get him here.
All right, well, Shabbat Shalom. Good
Shabbat
to see you
Shalom.
tonight. So, as we welcome one another back from the silent Amidah, take a moment for Mishaberach L'Cholim, a prayer for healing and wholeness. So I'm going to read the list of names that I have on the congregational Mishaberach list, and I want to invite you to share either in the chat or out loud names of those that you are thinking of for healing. So we are thinking of on this Shabbat and sending our hopes and our energy for healing and wholeness to Andrea Abrams Herbert, James Alberts, Fran Anderson, Roberta Archibald, Arden Barry and Carol Mueller-Bell, Rabbi Deborah Bowen, Robin Kupo, Frankie Deaver, Faye Fishman, Marcy Fish, Joan Flaherty, Rhoda Gansler, Joaquim Gabel, Eric Gershman, Jonathan Giannini, Cordula Hamish, Chava Hurley, Sharon Cass, Moss Kaufman, Beverly and Howard Kaufman, Fran Kaufman, Dr. Joy Layden, Sandy Lewis, Robert Mueller, Anthony Nero, Lisa Nicholson, Stan Pollock, Abby Rosenberg, Mike Rosenberg, Shelley Sanders, Marlene Sortino, Howard Temple, Lynn Van Engel, Brandy Wozliewski, Stan Weckstein, Millie Weissman, Grace Zangwill, Eileen Zeff, Rob Johnson, Doug Proudman. And let me look over here to see if there are others. Moti Carniel, Dina Appleby, Mira Appleby, victims of gun violence and trauma in all of its forms. Shlomo Yudel Ben Leah, thanks Amy. And are there others? Dorothy Berlin. And Barbara Wolf, Bobby Olchin, Debbie Hoffman, Jean Horowitz. Thank you. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Laimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And we transition from our prayer of healing and wholeness, where we announce the names of those about whom we're thinking, whose cups need filling, to a prayer where we lift up our cups overfilling with sweetness, as we use that sweetness to bless this day of Shabbat and the Kiddush. And so if you are celebrating anything, a first, an anniversary, a birthday, something new in your lives or exciting in your lives, I want to invite you to share what it is so that we can add that sweetness to our cup as we celebrate our entire community and lift it up as part of what we use to sanctify this day of Shabbat. I also want to say a Shabbat Shalom to Amy Gross, who has just joined us on YouTube. And so what are you celebrating this week? Who's celebrating something? All right, Rich, what are you celebrating?
I am going to celebrate the fact that I got a video of my older grandson who's 5, and it now plays the violin, as my daughter did when she was younger, and she became a violin teacher. But so it was kind of cool to see that there was a tradition that was passed on, and he's pretty good.
That is very exciting. I am celebrating something as well. Bina has not learned to play a musical instrument, but our 5-year-old just jumped off the diving board for the first time when we were on faculty at family camp at Camp Havaya last week. And so I am celebrating jumping off into new adventures, because she'll also be adventuring into kindergarten on Monday and jumping off into all kinds of things. Is anyone else celebrating something or marking a milestone? Speak now or forever hold your l'chaim. All right. And so we'll rise in spirit or in body for Kiddush on page 119. And actually, let me make sure on YouTube that I did not leave anyone behind, but we will shout them out for a l'chaim after Kiddush. We have one. Walking again after breaking her knee 3 months ago, Amy is celebrating and gets a huge l'chaim for being back on her feet. And so with that, we raise our glass on page 119 with our cup filled even more full with all of that sweetness that we hold with one another. Savrei chaverai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki elenu karata v'yotanu kidashta la'avodat ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים לחיים. We will remain just like this as we turn to as we turn to Aleinu, and I want to share an alternative Aleinu in honor of our conversation, our Torah, our Devar Torah conversation tonight, a reading by Jack Reamer on page 772. We cannot merely pray to God to end war, for the world was made in such a way that we must find our own path of peace within ourselves and within our neighbors. We cannot merely pray to God to root out prejudice, for we already have eyes with which to see the good in all people, if we would only use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to end starvation, for we already have the resources with which to feed the entire world, if we would only use them wisely. We cannot merely pray to God to end despair, for we already have the power to clear away slums and to give hope, if we would only use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to God to end disease, for we already have great minds with which to search out cures and healings, if we would only use them constructively. Therefore, we pray instead for strength, determination, and willpower to do instead of merely to pray, to become instead of merely to wish, that our world may be safe and that our lives may be blessed. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ ומשה ויקרא בשמש. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. We can be seated. And I want to say Shabbat Shalom to Sandy, and perhaps also to Steve, who've joined us since the last time we said Shabbat Shalom. And we'll turn together. You've made it just in time for the end. It is great to see you, and I want to say Yesher Koach to those, I believe to Jules and Ruth, who helped to ensure that we had a minyan for Kaddish tonight, and that true mitzvah of building the community, and all going back to that there will never be needy in our land. So I want to thank you guys for all of your behind the scenes work tonight in holding together our sacred community, and to each and every one of us tonight for making a minyan for one another as we turn to Mourner's Kaddish on page 131. And tonight we have a double list because we have this Friday night's list and also those for next Friday night. Because next week is Labor Day weekend and we will not be having our Friday night service. It'll be our last Shabbat off, or as Alex, our shamus, has been calling them, our Shabbat bye weeks for sports fans out there. So this week and also in the coming week, or the subsequent week, we remember and celebrate the memories of Natalie Epstein, mother of Susan Driver, of Joy Brand Hiller, mother of Amy Mendelson, Ann Wolfe, mother of Barbara Altman, Liberty Gitlin, mother-in-law of Bert Siegel, Rose Davis, grandmother of Rich Davis, Samuel Polonsky, father-in-law of Charles Gardner, Jacob Cutler, father of Sandy Lewis, Sidney Rose, father of Barbara Weissman, Toby Weissman, mother of Marty Jacobs, Goldie Rosenberg, aunt of Manny Rosenberg. And this Shabbat, we mark the first yortzeit of Bill Conrad, late husband of Betty Kahn. And in the subsequent week, we remember and celebrate the lives of Horst Brand, father of Miriam Ornstein, Herbert Elfman, brother of Betty Kahn, Mildred Rosenthal, mother of Stu Rosenthal, Ann Rosenberg, mother of Manny Rosenberg, Gilbert Pelovitz, father of Ann Davis, Stanley Kalish, father of Michelle Kalish, Sylvia Greenberg Brown, aunt of Meryl Stern, Abraham Gross, father of Amy Gross, Ben Shaw, grandfather of Josh Jones, and Mitch Klein, brother-in-law of Scott Crespi. And if there are others for whom you are saying Kaddish or observing the Yortzeit for, of course, Bertha Schwartz, Steve Lieberstein. Steve, do you have for Elsie? Elsie Lieberstein. And are there others? Yeah, Sandy?
Lloyd Suter.
Lloyd Suter. Okay, and I want to invite mourners. Bertha Schwartz. And I want to invite mourners and those observing a Yortzeit to rise in spirit or in body for mourners Kaddish, along with those whose tradition it is to rise for Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei decho Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lamei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha Baruch Hu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Before we close this evening with a closing song, a few announcements. The month of Elul, believe it or not, is nearly upon us. Rosh Chodesh Elul is Saturday night and Sunday, which means that we begin to blow the shofar. This week, for the first time on Sunday morning at Morning Minyan, we'll begin to sing Achat Sha'alti next week as well. The season of the high holidays is upon us. It also means that the Elul emailing will be going out first thing Monday morning, and so before they get announced in that, I will also announce now, high holiday registration will open on Monday morning. As usual, it's an online registration form, or at least as has become usual in the last 3 years. The landing page, the High Holiday Central, will look very familiar. So just turn your clocks back to last year's High Holiday registration, and it will look the procedures have not changed. Guest tickets, please let Nadine know within the next few weeks if you're expecting to bring guests to High Holidays so that we can shore that up and make sure that everyone has the guest tickets they need. And as always, members of Or Hadash, we don't do tickets. What's a ticket, right? We come as members of Or Hadash, but please do take a second to let us know how you plan to come so that we know two things. One, how many chairs to set up versus how many people how many digital chairs to set up, and also how much food to have for Onegs. Erev Rosh Hashanah, you likely saw in your high holiday packets, will be again this year a Rosh Hashanah Seder. The difference is that we will not only be sitting at our own tables at home. There will be a way to join online by Zoom, connecting your table to other tables and to our table here at Or Hadash. But our Erev Rosh Hashanah Seder and service will be also here on site at Or Hadash in the community room. We will have the doors open for good ventilation. We may even have a few tables set up on the covered porch so that we can be an indoor-outdoor circle. And we are asking people with suggested by last name but to bring a dish divided by last name, but you can fudge a little bit or pick a maiden name or a middle name or a partner's name or to pick the that features one of the symbolic ingredients of the Rosh Hashanah Seder. All of that will be in the registration materials, so please do RSVP for Erev Rosh Hashanah dinner, because one of the things that we have heard over the last several years is that Erev Rosh Hashanah services, the people who often come to the service are those who don't have a Rosh Hashanah dinner at their house or that they go to. And so, what a wonderful way to fill both needs, that we make a Rosh Hashanah dinner together for all of us, as we bring our online tradition of the Rosh Hashanah Seder into our synagogue space on site as we begin to come back carefully together. A few other messages. There are going to be two offerings for adult learning during this month of Elul. One is going to begin in Elul and continue through the end of the high holiday season, and that is going to be a group meeting together to talk theology and to read together Rabbi Toba Spitzer's new book, God is Here, where she offers contemporary metaphors for understanding God. It's going to be a really wonderful deep dive together. If you enjoy reading and discussing together and also engaging in conversation about divinity and community, that class is going to be offered on site here at Or Hadash in the Life Cycle Garden. On Monday, the details about day of the week and time will come out, and it's going to be spread out over the course of 6 weeks, beginning during the month of Elul and extending until just after Yom Kippur. It will carry us through the high holiday season. We're going to read, we're going to discuss, we're going to reflect, we're going to chant and sing a little bit together. I think it'll be a really wonderful journey. And again, that's with Rabbi Toba Spitzer's new book, God is Here. And then the other, because not everyone can do sort of a long, deep dive, especially this time of year, especially those who are either quite busy with work or with small children or things like that, we're offering, I'm calling it Zooming into Elul. And it is going to be a Thursday, half an hour lunch and chant and check-in over Zoom, where we are going to go through a journey of self-reflection and communal reflection, this work of a cheshbon hanefesh and checking in with where we each are every week during this month of Elul. We're going to get together, we're going to sing, we're going to chant, we're going to read poetry, we're going to discuss, we're going to check in. Zooming into Elul Thursdays from 12:30 to 1 p.m. on Zoom. You could do it on your lunch break. Tap out of the ordinary and into the sacred. Tashlich is going to be, we almost know exactly. It will be at Cisco Park. The question is whether it will be on the first day or the second day of Rosh Hashanah. We are in conversation with BTBJ and our dear friend, your friend and mine, Rabbi Roni Handler, about whether Or Hadash and BTBJ will do Tashlich together this year. Because Rabbi Roni and I were talking at the bus stop for Ramah Day Camp as she was dropping off her kid and I was dropping off my kid, and we were schmoozing and talking like you do. And we both have Tashlich at Cisco Park, but on different days. So we thought, what if we did it together? So she is waiting for the BTBJ Spiritual Life Committee or Ritual Committee to officially sort of give the okay and talk through it before we officially announce whether it'll be on first day or second day Rosh Hashanah at 2 p.m. at Cisco Park. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have that answer by Monday when the Elul mailing comes out. And I'm getting thumbs up from our spiritual life co-chair, Carolyn Savitsky, on that one. And last but certainly not least, there are a few deadlines just to be aware of, or rather a few forms to still get in. Nadine is still accepting Yisker book submissions and will be for the next couple of weeks, but please do get them in shortly. And then as well, not this week, but next week and the week after, keep your phone lines open. Board calls are coming. So if you have filled out your High Holiday volunteer form and sent it to Carolyn Savitsky, then you are awesome, and we know what you want to do for the High Holidays. If you have not yet, either you can scan it real quick and send it into Carolyn Savitsky by email, or you will get a lovely person-to-person phone call from one of Or Hadash's lovely and Hamish board members to wish you a happy new year and to invite you not to give money to the synagogue. We don't do that for our High Holiday appeal. Rather, we appeal to you to take on an English reading or a blessing or an ark opening or a Torah lifting for the High Holidays, or to greet or be an usher or a digital usher or a parking attendant, or any of those wonderful ways that each and every one of us gives of ourselves to make the High Holidays special. Last night on the board meeting, someone reflected that at the synagogue where they were growing up, their family never had an honor at the High Holidays. They weren't, a big macher. They weren't someone who was in the senior leadership of the synagogue, so they never expected that anyone that they knew or in their family would ever have a High Holiday honor. And that here at Or Hadash, one of the things that makes us special is that nearly every person in the community takes a High Holiday honor, and certainly every single person is approached with the offer. Because it's not just High Holidays if I'm the only one talking, or only members of our senior leadership are the only ones talking. That's not what it means to be a community. So I want to invite you that when you receive the call, that you rise to the call, rise to the occasion, because each and every one of our voices is what makes bringing in the new year special. Thus endeth the announcements. Tomorrow morning, wait, there is one more wonderful announcement. I'm so sorry. There is one more. Sorry, Jules Mermelstein, you are right. The Or Hadash Fantasy Football League, awful by acronym, ha ha ha, draft is Thursday at 7. That is Thursday at 7 this week. So please be in touch with Jules Mermelstein if you want to join the Or Hadash Fantasy Football League. It is very important that we have people playing fantasy football this year, because my name is the one that is on the trophy for the championship for the first year. Someone has to knock me out of first place, because it's not good to have a rabbi with ego. So please do help me to not be the only champion, if you can, on the trophy. No, do be in touch with Jules Mermelstein to join Or Hadash Fantasy Football, or if there is a fantasy football person in your life who does not attend Friday night services, because I'm not sure how big the center of the Venn diagram there is between Friday night service daveners and Saturday morning daveners and fantasy football players. So do take a second and text your favorite fantasy football Or Hadasher and say, hey, did you know Or Hadash does fantasy football? And have them call Jules.
And let's not forget that because we're not having services next Friday.
Yes, that September 7th is the next meeting of the 12-step Chavurah at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. And so, we will conclude with Adon Olam, perhaps for our last time as we prepare to take a break for Achat Sha'alti this time next week, and for the rest of Elul and Tishrei. Page 133. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra lihet nasa b'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשיל לו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. בידו אף תדרוכי, בעת תישן והעירה, וימרוכי גביעתי. אדוני לי ולא אירא, אדוני לי ולא אירא. Shabbat Shalom.